So we're studying the command consequence, right, which is a two-part sentence in which you have a command as the first part, and then the second part tells you what happens as a consequence of you following that command.
Okay.
So how do we recognize command consequence in Arabic? So we have our two parts, right? The first part is the command, which we've already studied.
Right, the three patterns and all that.
So the command and the command consequence will look exactly the same as a normal command.
Okay.
Right, so we'll recognize it same way we've recognized commands.
Okay.
Right? And then we have our second part, which is the consequence, and the consequence is just made up of a bald action.
Okay.
So you have your two parts, your command, and then the second part, the bald action.
Okay, so it's a command followed by a bald action.
A bald action.
Okay.
Right? And so, actually, there's one thing that's a bit unique about the command consequence in that if we go back and look at our 5 scenarios of bald, right, all of them have some sort of clear indicator.
What do you mean?
Of bald, right? You'll know right away why it's bald, right? So if you see a shaving word, for example, you'll see a shaving word followed by a bald action.
Okay, so
you'll know right away why that action is bald.
It's bald because of the shaving word.
Bald because of the shaving word.
Okay.
Right? If you see a forbidding, what do you see before a forbidding?
You'll
Always.
have la plus a bald action.
La plus a bald action, right? So if you see a bald action with the la before it, you know instantly why it's bald.
Uh-huh.
Right? If you see a conditional sentence, a bald action in a conditional sentence, you'll see the in there.
Right.
Right, so you'll know, again, right away why it's bald.
Okay.
And then the same with commands. If you see a command, you'll see it following one of these 3 patterns, so you'll know why it's bald.
Okay.
Right, but with a command consequence, you'll just see kind of a bald action. Right?
Okay.
You'll just see, of course there's a command coming before it, but you might see a command and be like, oh, I found a command, and that's all there is to it.
Uh-huh.
And then you might miss this bald action or miss the reason why it's bald.
Okay. So with everything else, you have something that's like kind of coming right before it that's making it bald.
Uh-huh. And you'll see that right away. But with command consequence, the consequence is just a bald action.
Okay.
Right,
so there's no like word that's right before it.
Right, there's no word or something right before it, like in or la or shaving word.
Uh-huh.
And it doesn't follow a specific pattern like commands. Right, so you might miss it. Right?
Okay.
So that's a caution there. Make sure if you see a command, or if you see a word that looks randomly bald, it's likely going to be part of a command consequence.
Okay.
Because nothing is ever randomly bald. There's always a reason.
Yeah, there's always a reason for bald, and if you can't see it, it's the only one that doesn't have a reason for bald, and that's
right. If you can't see it right away, like in or la or one of the shaving words, then it must be a command consequence.
Okay.
Okay. Enough theory talk. Let's look at some examples. Okay. Here's an example of the ayah. Udu'uni astajib lakum. So we have udu'uni, ud'u, which is
clearly follows a command.
Follows a command pattern. So we have an alif followed by 2 letters, and then our indicator. The ni is just a receiver. So we have a command. And then astajib is a bald action.
Okay.
Right, so we have a command followed by a bald action.
Okay.
That makes a command consequence. And here we have our translation, call upon me. What will happen as a result of you calling upon me? I will respond to you.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's look at another example here.
So we can have like so here we have command, and then we have a receiver.
Yeah.
So you can have like receivers, you can have doers, you can have TLDRs, all of that.
Yeah.
So the bald action won't necessarily come like right after. You can have.
It doesn't have to come right after, because a command is an action, right? An action can take a doer, can take a receiver. Right? It has to have a doer. It can take a receiver, TLDR, anything.
Okay.
So yeah, it won't be immediately back to back.
Okay, I see.
Okay. Let's look at another example here. قالوا كونوا هودا أو نصارى. So قالوا is just past tense, right? Saying they said, starting the quote, and then كونوا هودا أو نصارى. تهتدوا is the quote. كونوا is our command. هودا أو نصارى. هودا is a receiver because the receiver label, and then أو is connecting نصارى to هودا, so that's part of our receiver as well. And then تهتدوا is a bald action, so that tells us that is the start of the consequence.
I have a question.
What's your question?
Kunu. What pattern does that follow?
You tell me.
So we have first pattern is alif followed by 3 letters. It doesn't have an alif.
Right.
And then more than 3 plus e.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't have more than 3 or an e.
Right.
and doesn't start with the hamza, so this doesn't follow any pattern.
It doesn't follow command pattern, right? It doesn't follow command pattern.
So how, like, why did we say it's a command? Like, how do we know it's a command?
So this is actually an irregular. And one thing you could do is look at the back index of your vocab book and know that kunu is a command. Or we could use logic and say that tehtadu is bald, right? We recognize tehtadu as a bald action.
Right.
Do you see anything? Do you see an immediate reason why it's bald?
There's no shaving word.
No shaving word.
There's no la.
No la.
There's no conditional
word. Does it follow command pattern?
No.
So none of the previous 4 reasons for bald that we learned are present. So what did we say about that? When something looks randomly bald,
chances are it's part of a command.
Chances are it's part of a command consequence, right? If you can't see the reason instantly. And so we'll look backwards. Kunu is the only other action we have here. And so that is we know that that's a command.
Okay.
So by virtue of having a bald action later, we can kind of work backwards and use logic and say that kunu is a command.
Okay, so when we did like the context clues in last chapter with to recognize irregulars, we said 1, calling. We also had what was the other one? Connectors.
Calling and connectors.
So can we add consequence?
Yeah, we can add consequence.
So calling, connector, and consequence. So if we see something that is clearly a bald action, and we don't know why it's bald, chances are it's part of a command consequence.
Yeah, it has to be part of a command consequence, because if you can't find any other reason, right, all the other reasons for bald are clear.
Okay.
If you can't find it, then it's part of a command consequence.
Gotcha.
Okay. And then here we have our translation, be Jews or Christians. That is our command.
Okay.
What will happen as a result? Yeah, be command. Okay. You will be guided.
Okay.
Okay. Let's look at one more example. ذرهم يأكلوا ويتمتعوا. So we have ذر, which is our command. Hum is a receiver. And then يأكلوا ويتمتعوا are both bald actions. And so that tells us that that's the start of the consequence.
And they're bald because they have the ya beginning but no noon at the end. No
it was normally ya'una, but the noon was dropped. And then dhar actually is similar to the previous example we looked at where we have a irregular, right? Dhar doesn't follow any of the command patterns we studied.
Right.
Right, but we know working backwards that ya'kulu and yatamatta'u are bald actions. We don't see any of the previous 4 scenarios, right? So there's no shaving word, there's no in,
there's no la.
There's no la. It doesn't follow command pattern. So the only other reason is command consequence.
Okay.
Right, so we can use that context clue. And then also that has a bald action.
Yeah, that one looks more like easy
command.
To recognize because sukun doesn't, like sukun plus no aitan.
Yeah.
Like it's only ever really a command.
Right.
But kunu could look like it's past.
Yeah, because of the u.
Yeah.
So that's a command there. And here we have the translation, leave them to eat and enjoy themselves. And here we actually added a to into the translation.
Okay.
Just to make it sound more natural. So those are the 2 ways you could translate. You could just put a comma, right? Like we saw here, be Christians and Jews, comma. Or you can add a to. Right?
Okay.
So your 2 options for translation, do X, Y will happen, or you can add that to in between the command and consequence.
Okay, and just choose whatever sounds more natural.
Yeah, just choose whatever sounds more natural.
All
so
right.
How do we recognize a command consequence?
So you have a command,
which
we recognize the way we did before, followed by a consequence, which is just a present bald action.
Just a present bald action. And if you see a present bald action that looks like it randomly is bald and you can't find a good reason, chances are
it's part of a command consequence.
Part of a command consequence.